Well, I want to welcome everybody to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming today. We have two amazing folks who are working to make the Atlanta, Georgia area safer for older adults. They are with alatlanta.com. If you want to visit their website, they have a beautiful website. It's Accessible Living Atlanta. And we've got Rick Thaxton here. And we've got Dennis. What's your last name?
Lippy, Lippy.
Dennis Lippy as well. So they are going to tell us a little bit about who they are, and what they do. And thank you, boys. Thank you, guys, so much for coming.
Esther, we really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Uh, I started getting into the home modification division in '05. We ran across a friend of mine who was with the Atlanta Regional Commission, and she was telling us about this CAPS program. So we went ahead and I got CAPS certified in '05, '06. I was one of the first ones. So CAPS is Certified Agent in Place Specialist. And we
Mhm.
thought we'd get calls just to go install grab bars and so we kind of went down that road. We were thinking we were going to do a lot of aging in place, and we would go and do these presentations, and all everybody be ready to age in place. But everybody looks at it reactionary.
Yes.
That's a nice idea, but I don't need that right now. So,
Yeah.
so that kind of went away, and then but we kept on applying ourselves, and we would go to senior provider network niches. That's where little networks with people in the industry, and we go to Gwinnett and DeKalb and different ones, and we slowly started getting more into the of accessibility, and also we found out that accessibility there's no discrimination on age. It happens, we did a home modification for a 6-year-old boy with cerebral palsy. We do a lot with disability trust,
Wow.
and we do a lot with aging in place. But right now, it's the people who want to stay in their house and are programmed enough to understand that to do that, they got to make the modifications.
Right.
So, so yeah, I've been. We had another company and I sold that in 2019, and I think Rick started with me. It was at 2010,
2010. Yep.
2010, and Rick's been handling our marketing, doing a great job, and he understands. We for a little while there, we took him out of marketing and had him kind of in sales, and that didn't work out great. But we understood that the phone stopped ringing, and Rick learned a lot more about accessibility. And through the years, I've gotten a certification for CEAC. It's Certified Environmental Specialist, Environmental Consultant, uh, which are both kind of good areas if people recognize it. It gives us a little bit more training, but a lot of our training's been on the job.
Right.
Through the years, we do ceiling lifts. We partner with people to do elevators. Um, so that's kind of the evolution, and I'm going to let Rick share any tidbits that he would like to.
Yeah, I actually met Dennis while I was working with a place for mom. I
Oh,
don't, are you familiar with a place for mom, Esther?
yeah, of course.
Yeah. Back then, a place for mom sort of had a monopoly on that industry. In the meantime, there's been quite a number of companies in the Atlanta area that's opening up, this, which is good to provide some competition. But I met Dennis and kind of evolved away from a place for mom, and we got together in 2010. And I worked with him for 10 years until 2020. And he mentioned about selling the company. And at that point, I left when he sold the company. And then he called me back about, I guess it's almost 3 years ago, right, Dennis?
Yeah,
Yeah, 3 years
it's
ago.
in
He called
spring
me.
of 22. We
Yeah,
start. Yeah,
yeah. So he called me back and said well, I like to do some marketing, work from home, and that sounded wonderful. So I got back into work with him, and didn't it really hasn't I haven't missed a beat. It's just been really fun. Um, seeing the industry evolve from 2010 to 15 years now, and seeing what all is happening to it and how the growth is taking place, and just we've we've been able to benefit from a lot of different agencies that we've become affiliated with, and I think the business. Um, uh, but Dennis would agree that the business has gotten, it's really peaked, not peaked, but it's really grown to a point now where uh, we've had a lot of increase in our volume since those days.
Yeah, I mean, 10,000 people a day turning 65 until 2030, and then the next generation takes over. So
Yeah.
obviously the market is there. But what Dennis said is so true, is that when you walk in and you present these products or these modifications that can help someone to live independently longer, it's emotional. And then that barrier, comes up. No, no, I don't need that yet. I don't need that yet. And it's difficult. Then, do you continue working, or do you continue trying to market to them, or now do you market to the family caregivers, or do you market to both? And how do you get past that? And beyond emotional, it's also financial. There's that issue as well. But I think that that's the biggest block in. But so I like the idea of, instead of calling it aging in place, is calling it accessible living.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Number one, you're going for a larger target market, but also it doesn't sound so old, like you're
Yeah.
getting old. No one wants to believe that they're getting
Um,
older. Um,
and when we
Well, I
first
think
got started, sorry, Rick, when we first got started, we did my office manager's mom's home, and she was kind of left over from the Depression era.
no,
She
okay.
had sliding doors, and she didn't want to do that. She didn't want to grab bars, but we went ahead and took the sliding door out and put in a curtain, made it more functional in a grab bar. And she said, "God, I should have done this years ago."
I know, right? Once
It,
it's done, you get that
it,
statement. Should have done it
it
years ago.
is. It
I
is.
know.
It's amazing. Just a little bit of tweaking,
I
and
know.
it's a life safety issue.
well, I
It,
think, Dennis, what you had said a few minutes ago about when you started the business in '05, you thought it was going to really evolve around the senior industry, which we do have a good percentage of our total business. But we've learned that through being associated with um, muscular dystrophy and uh,
ALS.
children at every age, really, being affected by things like cerebral palsy, and of course, accidents
yeah.
play a huge role. We get a number of referrals every year from Shepherd Center, where some young kid or a teenager or doesn't. Well, our clients have no age boundaries. It really goes all across different ages and different needs. And that's what's so neat about home accessibility is when Dennis goes out to visit, each home is tailored to suit the specific needs of that person or that family.
And that's amazing because, I mean, honestly, some of the same products and modifications that you make for someone who's 10, because of cerebral palsy or whatever, could also accommodate, an older adult because of whatever, they have going on. The modifications can be the same.
They can.
Just the size of the products will be different, but still, you're not looking at the illness or disease or injury. You're looking at the capabilities of what the person can do, and how can you make him more independent? I mean, isn't that what everybody wants? To be more
Yeah,
independent?
so independence, and also we really try to make sure the caregiver's safe.
Yes.
Just as much emphasis on the client as the caregiver also. If the caregiver goes down, it's usually the spouse or the parent. They go down, you got problems.
That's right.
Their back goes out, so a lot of times we'll just do a ceiling lift over the bed,
Right.
just
Smart.
pick them up and take them over to a shower chair and set them down. But uh, yeah, and also there's a good market out there. A lot of people looking for accessible homes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I wish that home builders, I know here in Atlanta, the majority of homes are 2 and 3 stories. It's almost impossible to find anything that's 1 story.
Yeah,
And and has a zero entryway, into the home. And I wish more builders would get on board, but maybe eventually. The other thing I think that's happening in senior care or in seniors is that because people are living longer, with medicine and everything, it's to the point that what I'm seeing is seniors are caring for seniors. You
correct.
know, my mom-in-law lived to 102 and her children were in their 70s. So
Yeah,
they were caring for her,
right.
and they have their own medical issues on top of caring for her medical issues. So you're right, making the home accessible not just for the person, but for the caregiver as well is very important.
Along with that same thought, Esther, there's a lot of multi-generational living today where
Yes,
either adult children move in to their parents or vice versa.
right.
Uh, so in that regard, we end up often doing an addition, or either if they've got a basement, we'll go do like a mother-in-law suite in the basement. But there, we've seen a tremendous growth in that type of thing across the years.
What are
Yeah,
the zoning laws here? And is it county by county as far as putting in a granny pod or whatever they call a tiny home in the backyard? Can we do
yeah, there's a jurisdiction issues, and they call them ADU, accessory
ADUs?
dwelling units.
That's right.
And I do work with bankers or who's really into the zoning and keep pulling everything together. That's kind of she does mortgage, but she does a lot of ADUs. In fact, I'm doing a CEU with her this week. But it might end up being where you've got an ADU attached to your house, but the jurisdiction's not going to let you call it. But if you call it an addition, it's okay.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
matter of finding out. A lot of cities are getting to be more receptive to the ideas because of
Good.
the space issue.
Yeah, especially here. We have beautiful big yards, most of the houses here.
Yeah,
And you can easily accommodate that. And it gives you that independence at the same time. You've got somebody there close by that can, help if you need it. And that doesn't necessarily have to be for older adults. It could be for, a child with a disability that becomes a teenager and they can
yeah,
have their own space.
yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think is the top 3 modifications that most homes need that you see when you go out there and you take a look
I
around?
think the initial one is grab bars.
Yeah.
And they're really coming out with nice looking grab bars so that it doesn't look institutional, the round ones. They got some really decorative toilet paper grab bars,
Hmm.
soap dish grab bars, and regular grab bars. And we use an anchor where we don't have to find studs. We can put it exactly where the client needs it. A petite 90-year-old is going to be different from a 6'7", 300-pound guy.
Right.
And we found these same anchors will work for bariatrics in the old flimsy fiberglass showers. So
How much weight does that hold?
this one we just installed, it was 800 pounds.
Wow. Okay.
So, the technology is getting better.
It is.
And the grab bars, they have towel bar grab bars, which you really wouldn't use to pull yourself up, but it's for balance. As you're walking down, you can hold it. So they're really getting away from the institutional look.
Right.
They're not quite there yet, but all of our zero entry showers, we want you to walk in every morning and go, huh, you
Right.
know, this is nice.
Right.
So, there's a lot of major emphasis. There's the grab bars, and a lot of times we like to push lighting. That people get up in the middle of the night and they're walking around, stumbling around. But if you put in a little night light, you can pick them up anywhere. Motion detector. If you got a cat, the batteries might go pretty quick. But lights in the hallway and the stairwells uh,
Yes.
are great. And then just making sure you got good handrails going down the steps, going outside.
Yes.
Make it just kind of it's life safety issues. I need to grab this. Don't be silly while I got this, this bag of groceries, thinking I've got everything under control. So, those are kind of the big three that we look at. There's different grab bars. There's fold down grab bars in between the toilet and the sink, where notoriously there's no way to put it. So
Right.
Healthcraft has the thing they call PT rails. And so, and watch out for rugs. Rugs are great tripping hazards. Yeah,
Yeah, I
those are kind of,
recommend the vinyl rugs. If you have to have a rug, I like the vinyl rugs. I don't know if you can see it behind the door back there. And what I like about it is that they're extremely thin, they're non-slip, they're easy to clean, especially if you have
Mhm.
pets. And it's a way to have that aesthetic of a rug without the danger of possibly tripping over it or it folding over or having to bend down and clean it. If
Right,
somebody did even those ruggables that you can wash, you still have to fold them up and pick them up and drag them to the
right.
washing machine. So the vinyl rugs, I always recommend. And I love that you talk about lighting because I think that is one of the most underused
Hmm.
modifications. A lot of people just don't think of lighting and they don't think of how some lights cast a shadow,
Right.
and shadows can be very disruptive I mean, I remember having some patients, we'd be walking down the hall of the hospital and they would walk around a shadow of
Yeah.
on the floor thinking that it was a hole or something. So they couldn't determine one from, I worked in head injury, so the perception wasn't there. So that is very important to get. I'm so glad you talked about lighting.
There's somebody was telling me with the patient with Alzheimer's, a couple of things they would do is they would put a picture of a bookshelf on the
Yeah,
back of a door, so they wouldn't over the door, or
that's
they
right.
get a big old black rug in front of the door, and they think it's a hole,
Yeah, they
so
think
they
it's a
stay away
hole.
from it. Yeah,
Right, they stay away from it. And now they even have these, it looks like wallpaper or something, but you can put it on the door that
yeah,
looks like a bookshelf or
yeah,
a
yeah.
window or something. Yeah, there's all
Yeah.
kinds of these little tricks. And that's great. I mean, that's personalizing the modification to the person
Right,
at the moment because,
right. So
obviously things,
Alzheimer's, yeah, it is a at the moment type of
yeah,
situation.
at the moment. So how difficult is it for you guys to um, that Brooklyn in me is coming out? How difficult is it for you guys to convince people to take the next step, or do you find it difficult? Or how do you handle that when you
Well,
walk into someone's home? Obvious that things have to be changed, but they're like, nah, nah, not yet.
yeah. Well, it all depends on what level we hit them.
Okay,
For the people who are, they're going to modify, they're going to do renovations, then they'll start talking about what will work. Um, some of the ALS patients we work with, it's a short term. So sometimes just trying to make a second floor won't work out. And then,
yeah,
and then we try to come up with other alternatives. They're not as majority of the times we get there and they're looking for the solution.
good.
It might end up being where they don't like the colors or they're not real tickled about it, but we try to make it where we don't make the bathroom bigger than its walls right now.
Okay,
So we don't like to we say, if you're going to make modifications, if you're planning on staying here and going out feet first, that's one thing. But But even if you think you're going to be here for a while, you don't want to spend money to put it back for sellable. If you take a closet, that closet's gone,
Yeah.
out of a bathroom. So to really kind of think about what we're going to do, a lot of them ramps. We try to really say we really like to have a ramp in the garage just for
Yeah.
inclement weather. And that's a big argument. I'm going to lose a car space.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not going outside in the rain. Well, we won't be driving in the rain, but quit arguing with it. The- you know, it's not great, but we really don't like it to be outside. Sometimes you got to fight with HOA, but the big thing is the weather. You know,
Yeah.
so after a little while they'll come down to it, and there's other solutions. But
Yeah.
yeah,
A platform lift, maybe.
correct. A vertical platform lift works. And a lot of times it's kind of funny where they would have a conversation with their kids, and the kids would tell them one thing, and they fight it. I get in, I say the same thing. Great idea.
Yeah. It's like when the
That third
doctor
party
walks in,
relief. Yeah,
whatever the doctor says is right, even though it's the same thing the family's
yeah,
upset,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Did
But
y'all miss me?
yes, we did.
We
Where'd you
had
go?
a power outage here, and so I lost everything, including my internet. But I'm back.
Oh,
I'm
good.
glad you're
Glad you're
back.
here. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
We were just
So,
talking about any times we come across and the people are kind of balking about making the changes. But still, it's one of the things. It's kind of funny once we get out of the depression era age group, they're a little bit more receptive.
okay.
They I still don't want that grab bar, but I'll take it.
Right. Right.
You know.
Hopefully, because they've been hearing,
Yes.
information about it, they're more educated about it, and maybe they've even seen their, aging parents or grandparents or whatever go through it, and they're like, no,
Yeah.
I mean,
That or they've gone to a neighbor's house or friend's house and saw it works.
right. They saw that it works.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of times too, they're adult children, depending on what type of subtle pressure that they put upon the parent to, hey, you need to do this, or going to have to be some significant change, like moving out of your home. So that also that sort type of threat can oftentimes get someone leaning in the direction of staying at home with modifications.
Well, and a lot of times I'm brought in to evaluate it to where, all right, these modifications are going to cost this much. Do we move or do we stay? And sometimes I'm called in before they buy a house if they've already got the challenge or it's a progressive. Will this house work? What's it going to cost to make
Right.
it work? And you know, a girl called me and she's got a progressive disease and got a nice shower, but it's got a curb, and I can't do anything with it except remodel the whole bathroom. But had we talked about it before,
Right.
we could have, had possibilities.
So, when it comes to the money, when it comes to the cost, what kind of do you work with do you work with reverse mortgage people or people with grants or anything like that? Or do you rely just on the homeowner to pay for it?
Sometimes the VA and Rick chime in. The VA has some help. Atlanta Regional Commission might have some sources. FODAC, Friends of Disabled Adults and Children, but majority of the time it is private pay.
Okay,
Yeah, and it does hurt, especially with an ALS. That's why we try to emphasize return on the investment.
right,
You know,
Yeah,
uh,
I've talked to people over the years, and people still think, even though it's been going on, home modification's been going on for many, many years, people still think Medicare pays for home modification. And it's a big shock to them to find out that it doesn't.
right. It doesn't. It's true.
Yeah, so I mean, when we send an ebook out to folks that visit our website and give us their email address. And we'll send out information too, or even sometimes if they just need something on funding, we'll send it out without an email address. But there's a lot of local things that are taking place. Like there's a Down syndrome clinic that's handled at Emory School of Medicine.
Oh,
Uh, there's a spina bifida organization in Atlanta. There's an autism. It's called Autism Speaks. And of course, these are all children, mostly children related, but those are all based in Atlanta. Then there's a Georgia Medicaid waiver where people who are in that um, financial zone of the lower economic where they qualify for Medicaid, there are programs where those folks can get home modification either at no cost or a greatly reduced cost. So that's just a few of many options. I mean, certain organizations have grants, like Dennis mentioned. The ALS has grants, Alzheimer's has grants. Um, there's an organization called Disability Link that's local in Atlanta. We work with them sometimes about finding funds for someone. You know, we've always tried to make a dedicated effort to not let someone hanging if they don't have the money. We try everything we possibly can to help them get the funds. And sometimes we can, and sometimes it just doesn't happen. But we always go the extra mile trying to make that work.
I think that's important because walking in, if you can be the person that they call for whatever, you may not do the actual work, you may not actually provide the funding or the grant, but you know who can.
Sure.
You have the connection so that way you become their source. And
That's,
that's really so important because one, you're building trust, and two, you're building, more referrals,
that's a
not
good
only
point,
from,
Esther. We've always tried to be more than a home modification provider. We've tried to become an advocate for seniors, and due to the fact we've been doing this so long, we've really got a good database where we people call in about certain things. We've got people that we can connect them with. So that I think that does help a lot to let people know that we're not here just to do home modifications. We're here to help you to find answers for other things, even though it may not be directly related to what we do.
right. I think that's awesome. That's true full service.
Yes.
Well, also
Yes.
I go out and I tell everybody, you're getting my opinion and that's free. So,
That's
a
it.
lot of times, they didn't ask to get into this situation and I don't
Sure.
feel comfortable going out there and charging them,
Right.
but, and sometimes it works with me. Sometimes we might just, as Rick was saying, point you in the right direction. Tell you what the equipment is out there and this is what we know. But yeah, I don't like to get too much into a fee for these little bitty things.
Right. Yeah, and it's an educated opinion. It's not
Correct.
just, an
Very much
opinion.
so.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
when
if I charge you for it, then you can sue me.
yeah, well, hopefully not, but you're
Yeah,
right.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
what I know, I'll be glad to share with you.
you have obviously contractors, handymen, whatever in your, the team that you send out. How do you train them? How do you teach them to work with this population?
They've been with me for years. It's the same idea, but they have compassion for what they're doing. They understand what they're doing, and they're not afraid to say, if we do this, it would make things easier. So when I go in, I'll draw up a bathroom. Sometimes they get there and say, well, this could go this way. So they understand the problems of the people we're working with.
Yeah.
So it's not they're training. They're all carpenters. So it's the installation is not the problem. It's understanding why and where we put it.
I think
Yes.
another
Grab
thing,
bars.
another thing, Dennis, is our people are not handymen by any stretch of
Well,
the imagination.
yeah,
These are highly paid, uh, very skilled. people that do have a number of skills. Oftentimes they are can do electrical work, they can do tile work. As Dennis mentioned, they're all carpenters. But the only time, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, but I guess we would still call in a plumber, especially if we have to have some plumbing moved. But if it's a small type of thing, even our people can do that as well. But our people, Esther, are all employees. We don't work with any subcontractors. They're
Well,
all
but
work.
we hire out plumbers and electricians. And
Yes.
lately,
Yeah.
when we get too busy, we do hand out the tile work. But
Okay.
they can get in. A lot of times. I just had a call from a gentleman, and he knew 6 months ago his wife was going to get out of the hospital. And 2 weeks ago, he called me on a Wednesday. She's getting out on a Friday. So we had to, all of a sudden, we like to start a job and have it planned, but
Yeah.
all of a sudden we had to jump.
Yeah.
You know, it's very much of a pain to do, but we have to get in and get out. A lot of times people, they haven't had a shower in weeks. They've been waiting for us to get there, or it's something they just found us. So yeah, so the trade wise, we do sub that out. We'll do a minute plumbing, but uh, I don't like to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. It does take planning. And when you have to go in at the last minute, you may not do it. It may not be planned out as well as it could have been.
yeah,
It really does take time and assessment and conversation, and yeah, it's
order
quite.
materials, and luckily we work with an OT. And actually, she brought us in. So when we were doing the design, we were able to go back and forth and
Good.
get her. And then she comes in before we finish up and talks about the grab bar location. So that helps out a lot. But when we're getting in or getting out, there's not a lot of time to can't order materials in time and
Right.
I,
Oh, there you are.
there I am.
Nice to
Hello.
see
I knew if I kept working at it, I could do it.
all right.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you use an OT. I mean, the whole mantra of an OT is to modify the environment to the person. So this whole home modification business is just ingrained in the training and the education for an OT. So I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you're using someone like that. Um,
She understands the body. I understand the house.
that's right. That's what you need.
Yeah.
That's exact. I think the CAP certification tries, as an OT, I went through the CAP certification and I think it tried very hard to teach me about the house.
Yeah.
But you're right. I am more in tune to the body than the house. It's what I did for many years. It's what you do
Yeah.
for many years. So that's
Yeah.
why I think it's so important that for it to be a multidisciplinary type of team that goes in there.
Right.
Do you guys see any trends in the housing industry of how houses maybe are being built or rebuilt or modified in order to accommodate accessible living? Do you think it's more accepted, this whole universal design idea?
I don't think the builders understand that concept yet, and I don't know if they will. Unless you go to a planned adult community,
Yes.
there you will. And a lot of people just don't want to get into that planned adult community. You know,
Right, right,
you know. And,
But
and
even
I'm
there,
not going
Dennis, even
to.
there, they just touch on it. I mean, they don't really get into making the interior of the home. I mean, it's all one level,
right,
but they don't do the things that we do that would allow someone to live there for many years to come. I mean, many people that move into these 55 plus active adults, they can't live there for the remainder of their lives.
right.
Well, and then the builders are looking at sales. You know, they're the same ones who in the 40s put two 24-inch doors into bathrooms.
Right. Right.
It's all about making that sale. So I don't know. And there are some contractors out there who are making homes under UD design and concept. So, but I don't go into a lot of new homes to evaluate them. So I would hope that they're getting smarter. To me, that's a sale. It's accommodations. That it's not a big deal to make it that way.
It it isn't, but they've done it the way they've always done it,
Yeah,
and now they have to change. At the very least, I wish they would incorporate, even if they just incorporate the space for
yeah.
a residential elevator, for the future, if they don't have to put it in right away, but at least to have that space there.
And a
Or,
lot of them are doing a lot of the townhomes too, stacking closets.
oh, good, that's good. So then you
So that you can do an elevator. All you got to do is put in an elevator and go. I
good.
think it's more on the townhomes than anything, but they do make so there's some pre-thought.
That's good. Well, then that's a shift. That's a shift.
And they're making doors generally. Now I don't know how much of it is code where they have to do it, but at least 32 to 36-inch doors.
Good.
You
Good.
know,
Yeah. I mean, I worked in South Florida for years, and even the condos there in the 55 plus, I can't tell you how many doorways, especially into the bathroom for whatever reason,
yeah,
was not wide enough. And it had a lip.
yeah,
Almost every bathroom had a lip. So even if the person was able to get into a wheelchair and take themselves to that bathroom door, if they could even get through the bathroom door, they couldn't get over that little marble
yeah.
half-inch lip because they just didn't
But
have strength to push themselves
in
up.
two or three different ALS situations where it was going to be really costly to redo the shower, I'm not real proud of it, but what we've done is we raised the floor with wood. We put that decking, we made it kind of a deck, and these had enough room to have a ramp to go in there. So you
Okay.
were able to ramp into there, and then they had that level platform, and then ramp back out. It's not the best solution. It does work. So, it's trying to think outside the box and
That's right.
what can accommodate, the client. A lot of times it's the spouse who's got to get them in there. So if
Right.
we can make it easier for the spouse, then
E-
that works.
I-
Ideally, we're going to put in a ceiling lift, but that doesn't work all the time either.
Again, personalizing it,
Yes,
not only to the house, but to the person and
correct.
to the living caregiver, whoever that is.
The
And
Whoever.
other thing, the other thing, Esther, we always stress is we know that there's going to be at some point in time the person's going to sell their home,
Mhm.
or the adult child may end up selling the home. So we want to let them know that whatever we're doing, first and foremost, is going to be functional for them, but it's got to be aesthetically pleasing as well,
Right.
because it cannot look institutional looking. We want that wow factor involves that if they got their house on the market, that when another person comes and looks at it, they just say, oh my gosh, it's got the accessibility, but it's truly, really beautiful. And that's the whole idea of trying to, and like Dennis says, functionality sometimes is most important. So we do whatever needs to be done just to help that person. But in every instance, we try to make it beauty as much as functional.
But I love how today, and Dennis mentioned it earlier, how they're integrating grab bars into functional things like the toilet paper and the soap
Yeah.
bar and whatever. I love how function is, or accessible products, whatever, are being integrated with beautiful things or practical things or something that's already there anyway.
Yeah,
I love that. I think that's going to hopefully, become more and more, especially with all the ideas that you can get from AI thinking nowadays. And I think product designers hopefully are looking at that demographic more. Because I mean, let's face it, the number of people needing it is there. It's
yeah,
definitely there. So how can we fit that? Years ago it was all about the youth market. But I think as the boomers, like myself, are getting more and more, 10,000 plus a day, then obviously you have to feed the market.
And one of the things we've been using the last few years in the shower, there's a vertical slide bar where you can put your handheld.
Okay.
Well, that's a grab bar.
Ah,
You
oh,
got it. It's got a Delta has it. It's a special one. It's a little bit bigger than your other vertical bar, but then it doesn't look like a grab bar.
right.
We like to use a diverter where it will control the handheld, but it also will control the shower head. So you just switch it, and then either it's for the caregiver, or so it gives a. Sometimes we'll put it to the side.
Nice. Oh,
You know,
yeah, by the seat. Yeah.
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 So the idea is if so the person that's challenged, they're not getting up and moving around. They're
Right.
sitting there, and this is what they need, and that's where it is. You
Right.
know, put the little niche there. So yeah, it's nice thing about residential is we can control it to the client. Commercial, we're controlling it to restrictions.
Right.
You have to have it this high. Well, that doesn't work for everybody.
Right. Exactly.
That
Exactly.
grab bar behind the toilet, nobody ever uses that.
Right. I think I just did an article on that. I'm not sure. Do you guys ever get asked to do any Airbnb or vacation rentals? Is that
No,
something?
every once in a while we'll get apartment homes, and we got to go through the landlord and everything else. But
Okay.
yeah, no Airbnbs, no
Okay.
vacation homes.
Okay.
I would think that would be something. Well, as long as I guess the problem there is, can they get the client in the house?
Right.
You know,
Right.
if not, then so that could
Mm.
be a challenge.
Do you see do you see a shift in what am I trying to say? In the awareness of these kinds of accessible modifications as I guess it becomes more acceptable. I guess it becomes more, well, maybe it's not becoming more acceptable. Maybe because of the price of housing these days, there is more of that multi-generational. People aren't really living in other homes or apart. They're deciding to stay together, even if they're abled or disabled in any way. So
Yeah,
do you
well,
see more of a shift in that?
now I see a lot of people wanting to get in their own home and stay in their own home.
Okay.
So and they're we've seen a great uptick in our website, but people are looking to stay at home, and a lot of times the mom or dad they recoup better once they're at home. They're back into their surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um,
Right.
and to pick up and move is an ordeal. Uh,
Yes.
it's better to go ahead and as long as they're spending money forward instead of backwards, enhancing the house that hadn't been, would take out a lot of garden tubs,
Yeah.
and use for
I
storage.
took mine out.
Yeah, and the grandkids are grown up,
Yeah.
yeah. So uh,
The garden tub,
yeah,
the dust collector,
yeah.
basically, at
Always
the
in
end
front
of
of
the
that
day.
big old 4 foot window.
I know. I know.
Then
I
we
think
got to
that's,
figure out what to do with that 4 foot window and
that's a,
privacy and everything. So
I know. I saw that a lot here in in Georgia.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So for someone who's just starting on this process, what do you tell them to do? I mean, hopefully they find your website and they start off with you guys because I think that would be a wonderful thing because you can give them just about everything it sounds like. But what advice do you give? When you go to a party and someone says, "Yeah, my mom is, 85 and I think we need to start doing something." What advice do you give?
I think the
Rick, you want
first,
to start off with that one?
yeah, I think the first thing to think about is a checklist of all the things that they should look at in their home to make sure that it is as safe as it can possibly be. Um, and there's some things that can even make it more accessible, like taking furniture, taking furniture out. That's not. I mean, I remember visiting homes back years ago. You couldn't hardly walk through it. It was so much things. It was so much. Gosh, I don't know, stuff, along with furniture. Those type of things are an accident waiting for a place to happen.
Yes.
Uh, so just getting a checklist and looking at it, I think doing all those things, putting it into action can sometimes postpone the need for modification if it's someone who is not, uh, certainly I'm not talking about someone who's disabled, but someone who is still mobile.
Yeah.
Maybe they have some type of a chronic illness, but they have not lost their mobility. If they can just put the checklist of things in action, they might need us now or need us 2 years from now. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
And we can
Exactly.
The,
provide them with that easily. We send people out checklists just to make them aware of what their initial needs might be.
and
Good.
AARP's got a checklist from their home fit program. So that's a
Ex-
good start. But like if the children start noticing the parents are having a little bit more of a challenge during this or that, that might be the time to go ahead and bring somebody in to evaluate their home and at least have a plan.
Right. Right.
If this happens, you could do this, or you really might want to go ahead and do this now. If they're having issues with the stairs, um, make the handrail different, or it's just a simple grab bar. But finding someone who's certified, a lot of times it's just an OT to
Right.
come in and say, look, these are your precaution areas, these are your high points. The OT's great. The ones we use, she charged about $150, but she'll put up a report, and then you can use that to gauge how as things progress. But like Rick was saying, a lot of it's preventive. If you could go ahead and get this grab bar in now, and even though one of them their youngsters will go into the shower and they'll see the grab bar, they like it.
Yeah.
It's that level of comfort. If I'm getting out of the shower and if I'm slipping, I have something to grab onto.
Right. Exactly.
It's so there's that. Yeah, it's paying attention to if they're having issues.
Yeah.
A lot of times adults won't acknowledge it because they're going to afraid to lose their independence.
But the funny thing is, it's the thing that gives them the independence, you know?
Yes.
I mean, I cannot tell you, I worked in geriatric head injury, and I cannot tell you how many patients I treated that came to me with a head injury and sometimes other injuries as well, simply because, they tripped on the step, or, then they didn't have
Yeah.
anything to hold on to. They tripped over a rug, or they bumped into the coffee table and then fell on the glass coffee
Yeah.
table. I mean, just silly, silly things that could have been prevented. And many of the times they couldn't go back home anymore. That was it.
Yeah.
And it was so heartbreaking to know if they had just fixed it before. And you're
I know
right
it.
about the furniture and stuff. I think decluttering is the very first step in any home modification for staying
Sure.
home and being as independent as possible for as long as possible.
Yeah.
So declutter.
I know we're finishing up, but Dennis, how many times have you seen where if someone a senior had fallen, they didn't want to let their children know because
Yeah.
if they did, they would say, "Oh, that's it. That's the last one. You got to go into a nursing home. You got to go into assisted living." So they keep it to
It's
themselves.
true. It's
Well,
true.
and a lot of times we'll go to an ALS client. We get a lot of calls once they first diagnosed. We'll go ahead and evaluate the home.
Uh,
To say, this phase you can, this phase will work, this phase here, but once you get to this phase, it won't work. But a lot of times the spouse is very active and they don't want to go to 50 plus.
right. Right.
They don't want to go to assisted living. So, you kind of have to weigh all that out. Once the client passes, the spouse still has a life.
Right, right. And obviously it's a personal decision with each family, how they obviously you're right. But and you're right, Rick, a lot of adult children, as soon as they hear that their parent fell, the other thing is they're afraid they're going to start putting cameras everywhere all
Yeah,
around them, to watch them. But
yeah,
luckily, there are sensors nowadays that aren't an actual camera, they just sense motion.
right,
So
right.
if the motion isn't moving, then something is wrong. But so it is getting better.
It
But
is.
yeah, there is
Yeah,
that
and
fear.
one technology I've been pushing and always asking about is in the bathroom if there's a fall. Apple and different people have some function, but if you don't have an Apple Watch
Right,
or if you're knocked out, what is going to happen? You can't put a camera there, and the little sensors, they're not instant.
right. They're not instant. And I like Alexa. I
Yeah,
like those devices everywhere. But you're right. If you're knocked out, that's not going to help you because that's
no,
voice activated.
no,
So, I mean, you're right. That's why, the whole idea of daily check-ins, but even a daily check-in,
yeah,
if you get a daily check-in at 8 a.m. and you fell at 10 a.m., then what? You're not going to get another check-in until the next day at 8 a.m. It's so,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's not a great system,
no,
but
it's not a great
so
system.
I'm always encouraging. I belong to H Tech in Atlanta, where all these people come together, all this technology, but nobody has a solution yet.
Not yet, but it'll get there.
Well,
It'll get
and
there.
I do handle a lot of products out of Denmark, so I've gotten to know some people in Denmark, and they really don't have any. I figured if anybody, Denmark, somebody over there would have something, but
Well, there
they
is a
have a
product
pressure
that
sensitive.
I thought it came out of Denmark. It's called the Nobi lamp, the Nobi, and
Hmm.
it's a ceiling lamp, but it's also a motion detector.
Okay,
And I think it's also a voice. Um, you can talk to it and connect with people, but it's just a ceiling lamp. Now, I'm not sure if it's available in the US. That's the thing. But I think it's from Denmark or somewhere, the Netherlands. I'm not sure, but Nobi,
okay,
smart lamp. And what I liked about it was that it didn't, like you said, it just looks like a ceiling lamp,
right, right. I had to
and
look that up. Yeah,
yeah, but it has that detection. And obviously, whoever is the other person on the app or whatever, then that person also has to, be cognizant enough to take a look at that app every now and then or get the
right, right. Hopefully
notification.
there'd be enough notification.
Right, get the
Yeah,
notification. So, I mean, you're
yeah.
right. It's not perfect as of yet, but who knows? Maybe you guys will come up with the next pet rock
Well,
for seniors.
yeah, yeah. That would be, it's a matter of getting our ideas and concepts to the right person.
That's right. That's it. That's it.
So,
That's it. Well, I think that, I mean, Accessible Living Atlanta is an awesome service. I think we're so lucky. I'm very lucky to be living in the Atlanta area to have you guys close by. I should have you come assess my home. Check it out.
well, there's a lot of remodelers who do accessibility, but that's all we do is accessibility.
Yeah, there's a lot of remodelers that do it, but not everybody does it well. And not everybody does it with a team, where you give extra services, like Rick was
Right.
saying, you always try to go above and beyond.
The
So
problem
I
with
really
remodel,
like, I think that's so important. Um, have you guys heard of the village model or the village movement?
Yes, but you might have to remind me.
I've
Is
heard of it.
there, yeah, is there one in Atlanta? It started in the Northeast, I think, in Maryland, or I'm not sure. Anyway, basically what it is a group of people in, let's say, a 10-mile radius. You join the group, the village, whatever, you join that group. And I think you pay a monthly fee or yearly fee. And in that group, the people in that group, then in that area, they help each other. So if there's a carpenter, a retired carpenter
Hmm.
living in that area, he'll help other people in that group. If there's someone who can drive, he'll help people in that group. So it's a way for you to stay in your home, but at the same time live in a, get the help like you would in a community. And
Right.
some of them are wealthy enough, or however it works, that they actually hire a physician or a physical therapist to come and do home therapy or
Mhm.
home, medical care or
Right.
whatever. So I like the idea. I just didn't know if there was one here in Atlanta, because
I
that would
think
be
the
an
closest
interesting.
thing to that, Esther, would be next door.
Yes. The next door, you mean that little online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
It's something like that, only it's a specific group of people. And I
right.
think what you're paying for are the services that everybody contributes.
Now, Dunwoody was doing something of that, but it was you paid a fee, and it's the concierge kind of concept.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
You know.
that I think is very important, the concierge system.
Yeah.
I think a lot of seniors don't take advantage of it as much, although it may be changing. Ever since COVID, I think more and more people are accustomed to getting services delivered, things,
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
I like that idea. I use it a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's great. I think you guys are doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
And yeah, anything that I can do to help you, let me know.
Well, we do a lot of presentations. I do a lot of lunch and learns and breakfasts. So if you come across something where you would like to partner up,
All right.
you can let me know. We'll do the same.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
That
Thank you
sounds
again
great.
for letting us participate today.
Yeah. This was fun. This was
Oh,
fun.
sure. Anytime.
Yeah.
And if you guys have any questions about, the internet or your website or
Yeah.
article writing or AI, feel free to let me know. If I know it, I'll tell you what I know. And if
Rick,
I
I don't
don't
know
know it, I'll learn it and tell you what I know.
if she was talking about Opus.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
open
wrote that
flip.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Neat.
that's a great tool to just throw in your video
Yeah.
and then have it slice it up into pieces and then you just submit it.
Right.
Yeah,
And Rick, Esther, we'll pick a date. We'll meet in Swanee for lunch.
I love that. We have a brand new restaurant opening up with
Oh,
international tapas.
uh-huh.
So yeah, we'll check it out.
Good deal.
I'll send an Uber for you guys.
Okay. You're gonna send an Uber up to LJ?
Sure. Well, LJ. Okay, well that's a little far. Yeah, that's a little far. Maybe we can
I'm
meet
just
Uh,
kidding.
halfway between LJ and Suwannee.
I'll I'll meet Dennis and Tucker. Then that'll
I
work.
think it'd be easier all of us meet in Swanee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess that
For you
kind
to
of is
go
in the
cross
middle,
country, Rick.
I
Yeah.
guess.
Thank you, Esther. We appreciate this time.
Thank you
Thank you
again.
guys so much. I appreciate your time. I'll
All
see you
right.
all
See you,
later.
Rick. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye. Have a good day.
Ciao. Ciao, you too.